And now today, onto the business of the news here, an urgent new warning on Iran's nuclear threat. As we continue this hour of America Live, I'm Martha McCallum, in for Megyn Kelly. This weekend, Israel's prime minister put Iran's nuclear program squarely back in the spotlight. He called on the Obama administration to take a more aggressive action against Iran, including the possibility of military strikes.
They're getting closer and closer to the bomb, and they have to be told in no uncertain terms that will not be allowed to happen. I think it's important to understand that we cannot allow it to happen. Our clocks are ticking at a different pace. We're closer than the United States. We're more vulnerable. And therefore, we'll have to address this question of how to stop Iran, perhaps before the United States does.
Ambassador John Bolton is a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, of course. He is also a Fox News contributor. Ambassador Bolton, welcome. Good afternoon to you. Very strong words by Benjamin Netanyahu, who clearly said that he senses that there is just no sense of urgency in this matter.
Well, I think it's worse than that, actually. He's worried that the West, the United States and Europe, have fallen for the trap that newly elected Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has set to resume negotiations about Iran's nuclear weapons program. For 10 years, Iran has used negotiations to buy time that was critical to overcome the many scientific and technological hurdles that have to be overcome to have a deliverable nuclear weapon. Rouhani himself 10 years ago was Iran's chief nuclear negotiator, and he boasted after he left that job about how he had basically suckered Europe and the United States into negotiating while Iran made progress. I think he's got the same thing in mind, and I think Netanyahu is worried that the West will fall for it and Iran will just go even further than they are now toward that nuclear capability.
I mean, clearly, on his part, speaking out on the Sunday shows is one way of, getting that message across. We know that he and President Obama have not always seen eye to eye on this issue, have they?
Well, I don't think they see eye to eye at all. I mean, obviously, Israel would prefer that the United States take the hard decision to use military force against Iran's nuclear program. I don't see any possibility that President Obama is going to do that. So I think that's why Netanyahu is reminding everybody that Israel is in a different position. It has lesser capabilities, and it has to worry that if they don't act and the United States doesn't act, then Iran gets nuclear weapons.
How likely do you think that is, a missile strike on the part of Israel to take out what they see as an ongoing and increasing threat?
Well, I think it would be something in addition to or other than a missile strike. Look, Israel twice before in its history has struck preemptively against nuclear weapons programs in hostile states. In 1981 against Saddam Hussein, and in September of 2007 against a North Korean-built reactor in Syria. So this would be the third time, and I think they see nuclear weapons in the hands of the Iranian regime as an existential threat to Israel itself, and so that's a powerful motivating factor.
How much coordination is there, or how clear can we be on how far along they are in this process? It seems that we get conflicting signals every year. Is it further along than anybody believes, do you think?
Well, I think our intelligence is obviously imperfect. I think if we've learned anything about intelligence in the last 10 years, it's that we ought to have a sense of humility about how certain our information is. But let me be clear, Iran is not racing to the finish line to build one nuclear weapon. They are building a broad and deep capability that will allow them to produce dozens and dozens of nuclear weapons when they determine they want to cross that finish line. And I think that's why Netanyahu is especially worried. If you're waiting for the very last step before Iran gets nuclear weapons, they're not at the point where they think they need to do that. And that's what concerns Israel.